Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. This time we're covering manga chapter 1185. I was already enjoying this Esperia backstory of Brook, with the introductions of Luvwen and Candelle. I guess now in comes the tragedy of Brook's backstory, and of course it has to mirror what we got with the Roombar Pirates, because it wouldn't be Brook's backstory if it didn't. I still actually prefer this backstory over what we got last year. Not to say that the King Harold backstory was bad in any way. I just thought it was a little too drawn out considering we knew where this was heading. The thing about this backstory is it's only one half of the backstory. We know there's another side to this from Gunko's perspective, or Princess Shuri in this case. Brook's version of the backstory is pretty much going to be wrapped up in the next chapter. And I have to say, despite the fact this chapter gave us more insight into Queen Candelle, which I appreciate, I have to say, as far as like the standout characters here, Luvwen is probably the most standout character of this entire flashback. I'm not even joking. Like, from what we saw at the start, where he looked like he was just going to be like a gag character, like he from shits and giggles. Like, we knew the reference he was going with, but Oda decided to give him a character in the previous chapter. This chapter, it was all about Queen Candelle. Now, I wish we could have got a little bit more, but I get it. Oda has to keep things rolling here as far as like the main plot of the story in Elbaf. I appreciate what we got here with Queen Candelle and obviously the growth of Princess Shuri. So with Princess Shuri, who by and large is becoming one of my favourite characters of the entire Elbaf arc, aka Gunko. I don't know how you guys feel. I said this before, out the Holy Knights, she's by far and large my favourite Holy Knight, just because Oda's given us so much. When the Holy Knights first pulled up on Elbaf, and we just got this literally in the anime, a lot of people thought that the spotlight was going to be given to Shamrock. No. Look how things have changed since then. And look who's gotten the bulk of the spotlight, and now getting a backstory about her. So that should tell you everything you need to know right there. Speaking of queens, we got the cover page with the cover request. We got Boa Hancock on the cover page, and I already know this is going to be the highlight of the chapter for so many people. Granted, it's a great cover page, I'm not going to deny that, but it's not the highlight of this chapter. Let's be real. It's great to see her again, but it's a cover request, so calm down. Though this cover story kind of ties into an SBS that Oda gave an answer to when it comes to like Boa Hancock's cooking skills, and the fact that she wasn't that good pre-time skip, of course, because I doubt she cooked for anybody. Obviously it got better because she met Luffy and she wanted to cook meat. Now, according to the SBS that Oda answered, Luffy actually saw the meat and that's the only one that ate the meat, the cooking that Boa Hancock served, apparently. But I don't know if we're going to get to see that canon-wise, but we get to see Boa Hancock cooking up meat, so obviously she can hone her cooking skills for Luffy. So there you go. So whoever recommended this cover story is a hardcore Luffy and Hancock fan, just saying, that want to ship these two together. Either way, it's good to see Hancock again. Now, it did get me to think about something else too, because I know with this is going to spark a lot of conversation about, oh, when we're going to get to see Boa Hancock again. And by and large, that's the reason why this cover page is a highlight for a lot of people. But I'm like, we don't really know how Elbaf is going to end up. We don't know if anybody else is going to show up on Elbaf. There's still a lot of time left between now and the end of the year. We still got 6 months so we don't know. Though I will say, if there is going to be if Oda's going to like set up a cover story pretty soon, then I have to imagine that Boa Hancock has to be one of the favorites for it, because unless we get to see Hancock before or after Elbaf, I don't know what else Oda's going to do to contribute, considering we're supposed to be in the midst of lightning fast pacing when it comes to One Piece. So just saying. Either way, great to see Boa Hancock. So one of many queens we get to see in this chapter. So speaking of queens, we start off with Brook and Queen Candelle. Or at this particular point in Brook's life, Candelle isn't the queen yet, but it is cool to see Brook hanging out with her. Brook has a thing for Candelle, but at the same time he's eyeing up a lot of other ladies that are nearby, because they're walking by 4 other ladies. One is completely dissing because obviously she doesn't look the same as the 3 others, so completely judging her for her looks, which I don't think you should do, considering I don't think Candelle did that with her husband. Just saying. Brook is like, trying to ask these girls to look up the panties. Can I see your panties? Even as a kid, Queen Candelle is getting pissed off by this. Like, Brooke, just hush up, stop that. And you got Brooke telling Candelle, oh, don't worry, you're my number one, even though he's talking to other ladies. So, I mean, he was Sanji before Sanji was Sanji, just saying. But apparently, we got more of this, like Brooke being asked by Candelle, why aren't you wearing a school uniform? And Brooke says it makes him feel comfortable when he's dressing as himself. It allows him to play music better. There's a cute little scene where he's sleeping, holding the violin, and you got Candelle putting the blanket over him so he doesn't get cold. So then we got Brooke being taught how to use swordsmanship by Queen Candelle. Brooke clearly learned his swordsmanship from Candelle here, because we see her hitting every target like it's nothing. Interesting dialogue, and to me this is one of the major vocal points of the chapter, because Brooke is asking Candelle, what's your type of guy? Do you have a type of guy you go for? And Candelle responds that there is one man, but he's out of my league. But the fact that Oda went ahead and had Candelle say that, considering what we know happens to her in this chapter, is kind of weird. So he also says, still, the reason I train so hard with the sword is to be by his side. I don't think it's Luvwen, just because A, she ends up marrying the dude, and B, I don't see him being that skilled at swordsmanship. We know Candelle is probably the strongest in this era, come from Esperia. Brooke comedically said, oh, it's me, isn't it? And Candelle's like, no. And then Brooke is further asking about the pants that Candelle wears, and he's asking, oh, you even wear men's underwear? And Candelle's like, no, I don't. It's just the style they're going for here. Candelle's like responding like, Brooke, your language isn't improving, you need to be more polite. But immediately Brooke just says, oh, would you please be so kind as to show me your panties? So like I said, we got some wholesome moments there, but we got some information too. Then it cuts back to where we are with Shuri and Brooke. Brooke is like talking to Shuri about her mother. She sounds like the sun over the whole nation. But then this conversation picks up even more. Now I think about it, there was once a government ship drifted up here in Esperia. The kingdom was thrown into panic as no one had ever dealt with directly with people of such stature. And then Shuri responds, celestial dragons? Brooke says, right, that's exactly it. The pressure was overwhelming. Then he proceeds to, and this is important to keep this in mind here, Brooke goes on to say, after that, Lady Candelle was bedridden for a few months after that, possibly due to stress. It's like following this, we find out Luvwen and Candelle get married, so they ascend to the throne, obviously. Princess Shuri is hearing about her mother and the marriage and her parents, but she just seems interested about Brooke. But there is a compliment there, because the nation positively bubble over Shuri because of she looked the same as her mother did, she looks the same as Candelle, obviously, the spitting image. But then Brooke says, they're the ultimate benefactors, I'd gladly relinquish my life for those two. And then Shuri gets super salty because she's like, oh, just my mommy and daddy? What about me? What if I was in trouble? And then Brooke says, oh, of course I'd lay down my life for you as well. But the way that Shuri kind of receives it is kind of like, oh, really? Is it just because I'm the daughter? But then Shuri's like, yeah, she's like, say that without hesitation then. So she's got this pouting face, but in this next panel, we got Brooke feeding her a lollipop, and she completely snaps out of it. So, which kind of reminds you of another scene we're going to get very soon when it comes to like the Holy Knights. Gunko eating, or in this case Shuri, and we see some similar personality when she's eating, she's delighted by the food. So the way to win her over is by feeding the candy, or she's got a sweet tooth apparently. But then we see that Brooke is teaching her swordsmanship, and then they walk past Candelle and Luvwen as Shuri's like, hey daddy, and Brooke's like, yo, his father instead, you're not a little girl anymore. And you got this little the two looking, Candelle's looking innocently, but Luvwen, I'm sorry, is looking like pissed off, because like, oh, I love you too, father. We get like montages of panels as music is playing on, the whole buzz off, which is the title of the chapter. So in one scene we got Shuri cutting herself, we got Brooke attending to her, we got Shuri attending to her puppy, and another we got Brooke assessing the height of Princess Shuri. And at the same, in another panel, we got Brooke disturbing another one by asking for a pat. Is clearly, but then you got Shuri kicking him in the back of the head. So there's this montages of the two interacting. Then and I guess this is where the cover page kicks into this actual chapter, because we've got a scene of Shuri actually attempting to cook, and you got Candelle in the background. So that was kind of cool. Just how Boa Hancock wants to cook for her man Luffy, we've got Shuri trying to do the same thing for Brooke. Here we got Shuri as a 15-year-old, and this is where the tragedy kicks in, as far as like Esperia kicks in. So apparently a thick mist shrouded the country that lingered for half a year. Now it started affecting the instruments, but then eventually it became the environment became toxic, that it claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people from Esperia, including Queen Candelle. So apparently those toxic fumes cost Queen Candelle a life, supposedly. I'll get to that in a second, but obviously this was the tragedy that hit them hard, obviously, with Shuri, Brooke and Luvwen. This is where the conversation dive into the talks about not being able to pay back the world government with this year's heavenly tribute. At the same time, we still got Brooke training Shuri, and this is another bit of dialogue that I noticed that actually stuck out. So, Princess, the way you move, sometimes it's like you can see the future. And then Shuri responds, I'm just going to be like my mother. Brooke hinting at Candelle being able to use future sight, possibly. I mean, it would be a surprise, considering this is an era before Zebek is well known. Just saying. So I wouldn't be surprised. Considering what we got with Gunko, I would not be surprised if she has future sight as well. And she is a Holy Knight as well, so that has to go a long way. Now, I don't know if it's a hint in Shuri having future sight as well, if it's just a play on words, but... And we move further down the line, and this is where I gotta give props to Luvwen, because he's like, the world government is our enemy, this means war. Because apparently he tells Brooke this. Brooke, they demand 1,000 slaves. The only way they would waiver this heavenly tribute, slavery in the Holy Land is fate worse than death. So Luvwen does not want to offer human sacrifices as slaves to the celestial dragons. So he's willing to fight them, which, considering the other trash we see in the series, Luvwen actually went up a scale, I think, because a lot of people, especially after losing like the strongest asset in Esperia in the form of Queen Candelle, and they're not backing down, I gotta give him props. You got Brooke trying to play music, but again, the instruments are being affected by all that's gone on as well. Nothing left to lose, but then they get word they landed on the northern port, that being celestial dragons, but little do we know is the Holy Knights. So Brooke is fighting his way through to the castle. He comes into contact with Shuri, who apparently has killed Luvwen, her father, with a Holy Knight in the background. Brooke looking absolutely horrified. That was a great panel, by the way. And then you got Shuri saying, oh, don't worry about war. It's already over, Brooke. Aren't you happy now? And that's how the chapter ends. So clearly Oda's setting us up for with the cliffhanger. The tragedy kicks in with Shuri switching to the Holy Knight side, affected by reverse Idomi. We know what this means. We know what's going on. But it's the perception here of Brooke, because he doesn't know any better at this stage. But he's going to learn the truth very soon. Just want to leave you with this. I don't know about anybody else. I could be reading too much into this. But the Holy Knight that's with Shuri right now looks a hell of a lot like Shiryu, or resembles Shiryu. Shiryu of the Rain. So I don't know if there's a connection or not. And he was locked up in Impel Down. So I don't know what that means, if I'm just reading too much into that. But he definitely gives off Shiryu, especially with that jawline. So we've got Princess Shuri switching to the dark side, but also a demon in this form. She looks badass, but this is going to lead into what Brooke decides in the present. We know where this is going. In fact, that's actually the reason why Oda decided to cut a lot of content from the ending sequence of this chapter. If you notice, there's a lot of cuts. There's a scene where Shuri's asking her father, I need to fight too? And he's like, no. Because if you get captured as well, that's going to be it. There's nothing we can do. But that's all we get to see. We need to get Gunko's perspective on what happened here. Clearly, she did not kill her father, in my opinion. I don't think she did. She showed up and got affected by reverse Domi. We know how this scenario works out. Look at what we got, not just recently at the end of last year with King Harold. Look at what we got with Zabek. The thing is, we knew she had the form of a demon, so that's not a surprise. I guess the question now is, until we get this perspective told by Gunko, did she willingly join the Holy Knights, or was she forced to due to reverse Domi? That's the question now. So that's why Oda gave us a lot of cuts, and again, if Oda wanted to amp up the lightning fast pacing, he would have done what he did during the King Harold backstory and shoehorn the God Valley incident into it and just completely take liberties with this backstory and just give us all this at once. But he's not doing that here. Because if he wanted to, he could just tell us what happened right here and now, so he doesn't have to go back to it. But clearly there's two sides to the story. Clearly what's happening here, if you read between the lines of what we see in this chapter, so we get some mist descending upon Esperia, all of a sudden affecting the instruments, which is a craftsmanship kingdom supposed to supply instruments. So that gets taken away by the mist. Then the poisonous fog kicks in, which you can clearly make a case of it being some type of plague, which claimed the lives of tens of thousands, including Queen Candelle. Considering the fact that it lines up with what we got with the Rumbar pirates, and they were attacked by enemies that poisoned them, that led to their illness and led to Brooke being left alone. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that what happened here was man-made and maybe an effect of a devil fruit. Just going to throw that out there because of what Brooke told Shirley about celestial dragons pulling up on Esperia, and then all of a sudden Queen Candelle was bedridden. Kind of convenient, don't you think? Considering what we got recently, and this is another parallel to the King Harold backstory, do we get Ida poisoned through Queen Estrid's relatives, but Estrid herself succumbed to an illness as well. And there's a lot of people that go in with the theory that Queen Candelle might be one of the Holy Knights. Now, I'm not going to say yes or no. I wouldn't throw that possibly out the window that she's still alive, only because of the fact of what we got with Emu. Because look at Emu, and even before Oda revealed Saint Nemorona Emu's actual form, even before he left Marajoa, he was coughing up blood. Emu was coughing up blood, and when Oda finally revealed his actual form, you saw him coughing. You saw him with mouth covered in blood. Either that's a consequence of Emu's body taking some damage from his battle with Joy Boy, or he succumbed to an illness, but he still manages to survive all this time. I don't know, and maybe that's the reason why he wants Vivi. But yeah, just because somebody's got an illness and quote-unquote dies doesn't mean they all die. I could see Queen Candelle being alive. At the same time, we also have other characters who mysteriously vanished without a trace that we need to have some type of explanation for. I'm looking at Eris, the mother of Teach and the wife of Zabek. We don't know what happened to her. She did mention to Zabek, we'll meet again on the Lucia Kingdom. So either she became a Holy Knight or something else happened to her. So I wouldn't throw that possibility out the window, but right now the tragedy kicks in with the quote-unquote death, at least for the time being, of Queen Candelle. Oda's giving layers to this woman as far as her character. Never mind her abilities, but as a character, she blends in very well because her personality is not just straight one-dimensional, bland and boring. It's very actually three-dimensional. She has an innocent side, she has a serious side, and she has the Holy Knight side, which kind of goes with what Brooke said at the beginning before the backstory started. She has the three personalities in one, which is why I thought that Queen Candelle may have something to do with that. It still could. We don't know for certain. Why did the Celestial Dragons come to Esperia? Why did Oda have Queen Candelle mention somebody above me that I want to be by the side of? So could that be a member of the Davy clan? Could that be a D? Could Candelle have D in her name? Could Princess Shuri be a D herself? We don't know. But we're going to find out what happens with Brooke and Shuri in the next chapter that leads into the present and leads to Brooke's decision. We know where this decision is going. The question of when does Brooke and Gunko interact again? Because in the present, it's easy to forget Brooke is in no condition to fight anybody at this point, which is why I think Oda had Jinbei ask Brooke, hey, listen, it's cool, whatever your decision is, but we can't do anything about Gunko unless you decide for us. Like, you need to make the decision. I get the feeling the reason for that is because Brooke won't be in any condition to fight anybody, much less Gunko. So we don't know what's going to happen there. I get the feeling Nami's going to be the sympathetic voice of reason here. I said this before, and I'm going to say it, stick to it. Man, oh man, Brooke cannot catch a break. From what we got in the beginning with the cover page of Boa Hancock to what we got the final page, got with Princess Shuri in that form, I'm going to say it right now, looks badass in the past and present. This chapter was solid. Definitely one of my favourite chapters of the year. It may not seem that way to many, but there's a reason why. I like the interaction we got with King Candelle, even though I would have liked a little bit more, but I appreciate what we got. Like I said before, I was not joking. Like, Luvwen is probably my standout character. In fact, one of the best characters in this entire flashback, and who would have thought that at the beginning of this? Those are my thoughts. Please tell me in the comments below. That's going to do it for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. You guys know what the drill is. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys' support. Catch you later, guys. Bye.